Hello and welcome. In today's explainer, we are diving right into a really crucial part of your edXL business syllabus, approaches to staffing. Yep, it's specification 1.3.4, and it's all about how businesses manage their most vital resource, their people. So let's start with a massive question, one that really sits at the heart of this whole topic. Are the people who work for a company its greatest strength, or are they just another expense to be managed? Seriously, think about it. Every single decision a business makes about its staff, from how much they pay them to the training they offer, comes from its answer to this question, and we're going to unpack it completely.
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to walk through each of these 6 areas one by one. We'll get all the definitions, examples, and case studies you need to feel super confident for your exam. So let's jump in with that big one. Are staff an asset or are they a cost?
Okay, so first up, we're going to contrast the two core philosophies businesses have about their employees. Getting this distinction is absolutely essential, because pretty much everything else we talk about today will link back to this.
This slide just lays it out so clearly, doesn't it? On one hand, you have businesses that treat staff as an asset. They see their people as a source of long-term value. This means things like decent pay, a safe place to work, real training, and a chance to move up. The goal here is to keep skilled, motivated people around. On the other side, you've got the staff as a cost approach. This is all about keeping expenses as low as possible right now. We're talking minimum wage, bare-bones training, and insecure contracts. Now, this might save money in the short term, but it can often backfire. You end up with what's called a false economy because of poor motivation and people leaving all the time.
So let's move from the why to the how. We're now going to look at the actual tools businesses use to build a flexible workforce. You really need to get your head around this, because in today's fast-moving world, if a business can't adapt, it's not going to survive for long.
Okay, the first way to get more flexible is to look at the staff you've already got, and that's where multi-skilling comes in. Instead of having one person who can only do one specific job, you train them to do a few different things. Maybe the receptionist also gets trained to handle some basic accounts. This makes each person way more versatile, and it means the whole business can react better when someone's off sick or when things get busy, without having to rush to hire someone new.
But what if you just need more bodies, but not all the time? Well, that's when a business uses flexible contracts. These are so important for businesses where demand goes up and down. Think about a restaurant. It's packed on a Saturday night, but quiet on a Tuesday afternoon, or a shop in the run-up to Christmas. A great example is the Rio Olympics, where they hired 90,000 temporary staff. It's the perfect way to get the help you need right when you need it, without the long-term cost of a permanent employee.
Now, if you take that idea of flexibility to its absolute extreme, you get the 0 hours contract. And this one is pretty controversial. For the employer, it's maximum flexibility. You literally only call people in and pay them when there's work to do. But for the employee, well, it's tough. There's zero financial security because you have no idea how much you're going to earn from one week to the next. This is a classic example of that staff as a cost philosophy in action.
And finally, there's another kind of flexibility, outsourcing. This isn't about hiring individual workers. It's about a business paying a whole other company to handle a specific function. For instance, instead of having its own IT department, a company might outsource all its tech support to a specialist firm. The big win here is that it can cut costs, and you get instant access to expert skills you might not have inside your own business. So, what's the bottom line for the business when you put all this together? It's one word: agility. Having a flexible workforce means a company can pivot really quickly when the market changes. It can scale up or scale down its operations with all the heavy legal and financial baggage that comes with a big, permanent payroll.
Okay, next up, let's look at how the actual relationship between a company and its people is structured. How do they agree on the rules of the game? This is a really critical part of any staffing strategy.
So this slide shows the two main ways this happens. On one side, you've got the individual approach. This is basically a one-on-one negotiation. You sit down with a manager and hash out your pay, your holidays, your hours. Super common in smaller businesses. But then you have collective bargaining. This is totally different. Here, a trade union steps in and negotiates for a whole group of workers, sometimes the entire company. The whole idea is that one collective voice is a lot louder and more powerful than lots of individual ones.
Now, have a good look at this slide, because this table is straight out of your textbook, which makes it a perfect revision tool. Some big advantages of collective bargaining are that the final agreements are clear and legally binding, and it helps level the playing field between employers and employees. But, and this is a big but, the disadvantages can be huge.
Negotiations can drag on forever, and individuals' specific needs can get lost in the noise, and if they just can't agree, well, that's when you can get damaging industrial action, like a strike.
All right, here's a topic that often trips students up, and it's a real favorite for exams. We need to get super clear on the difference between dismissal and redundancy. They are not the same thing, and the legal distinction is critical. Listen carefully because this is the key takeaway. Dismissal is about the person. Their contract is ended because of something they did wrong, like misconduct, or something they couldn't do, like not being able to perform the job properly. Redundancy, on the other hand, is all about the job. The job itself is gone. Maybe the factory closed, or new technology made the role obsolete. The employee has done absolutely nothing wrong, their job just doesn't exist anymore. Person versus job, that's the difference.
Okay, now for the really important bit. We're going to apply all this theory to the case studies from your textbook. This is exactly what you need to be able to do in the exam. Take the concepts we've talked about and use them to analyze a real business. Let's kick off with W.L. Gore. Just look at this chart. It's figure 1 from your book. The employee satisfaction is through the roof. 98% feel they can take time off when they need to. 97% say it's a safe place to work. 89% say people genuinely care about each other. I mean, these numbers are incredible, and they tell you a lot about the company's approach. So imagine an exam question asks for evidence that W.L. Gore treats its staff as an asset. Well, you've got a gold mine here. You can talk about their team-based structure, which empowers people. You can mention their unique pay system that's based on what you actually contribute, their amazing benefits package. And here's the clincher, their super low staff turnover. That's fantastic proof that the asset approach is working because happy, valued people stick around.
Okay, now let's switch gears and look at Activity 2 on flexible work. This chart is fascinating. It shows just how differently countries use part-time workers. You've got Bulgaria down at less than 1%, and then the Netherlands way up at almost 40%. It's a great reminder that how a business staffs itself is massively influenced by the culture and economy it's operating in.
So, if you get an exam question like, why do businesses use part-time and temporary staff? Here's how you can structure a great answer. The number one reason is flexibility. It's all about matching your staffing levels to customer demand. It's just cheaper than having full-time people standing around when it's quiet. They're also brilliant for covering absences and for seasonal rushes. And here's a really smart point to add. Offering part-time work can actually open up your hiring to a bigger pool of talent, like students or parents who have the skills but can't commit to a 9-to-5.
And finally, let's get into the South African Airways strike from Activity 3. This is a perfect, real-world example of what happens when collective bargaining breaks down. The key question for you to think about here is, what was the negative fallout for the business itself?
Well, the damage to SAA was huge, and it hit them on multiple fronts. First, you've got the immediate financial hit. Canceling over 30 flights? That's a ton of lost revenue right there. Second, there's the damage to the reputation. Passengers who got stranded are probably going to think twice before booking with SAA again. Third, just the pure operational chaos it creates. And finally, and this might be the most damaging in the long run, it just poisons the relationship between the company and its employees. A strike is a sign that things have gone badly wrong, and it can take years to rebuild that trust.
All right, let's wrap this up with a quick-fire review to make sure everything is sunk in. Think about those checkpoint questions from your textbook. First one, what's the biggest downside of treating staff as a cost? Well, it's that you get high staff turnover and poor motivation, creating a false economy. Okay, second question, what's that key difference between dismissal and redundancy? Come on, you know this one. Dismissal is about the person, redundancy is about the job.
And to finish, here's a bigger thought to take away with you. Something to really chew on for those higher-level analysis questions. As technology, like AI and automation, takes over more and more routine jobs, how's that going to change everything we've talked about today? Will businesses value their human staff even more as an asset, for their creativity and problem solving? Or will the staff as a cost approach just become the default as companies try to minimize human labor? Something to think about.